What's going on, guys? I'm joined with Matt here. So Matt's a client of mine that I'm fortunate enough to have worked with these last months. So Matt got started actually back in, I think it was around the start of August. And we're sitting here at the end of January here. But Matt, do you mind just taking a second there, kind of run us through, like introduce us to yourself, where people can find you, who you help, price point, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So my name's Matt Enns. You can find me at the_sovereign_man on Instagram, and I help men restore their masculinity and save their marriage. So I'm working mostly with men in their 30s and 40s who are at some stage of the separation or divorce process, and we work to basically get them back on track, being the man of the house, providing for their wife's needs in the way that she needs to be provided to, in order that they can not get divorced. And really, really blessed and fortunate to say that we have a crazy track record compared to other offers in the space. And we've saved a lot of marriages in a short period of time.
Awesome. As I said, I saw some of those testimonials. I was saying this just before we started. I saw some of those case studies and things today. And I know myself, just off camera, me and Matt were catching up about some of the numbers he's done in his business. And Matt had a little smile on his face when he was telling me these numbers, but I think I had a bigger smile for him, right? So I think it's much the same for you when you see clients go through these transformations and stuff. It's not to get all sappy and emotional, but it is uplifting, right? Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, man. Cool. So, Matt, why don't you tell us, what was it? So back in August, back in July, like what was happening in the business? What were you struggling with? And yeah, what was going on back then?
Yeah. So I've been at it for a couple of years almost at that point, but full-time for maybe a year and a half. And my Instagram was finally starting to blow up, and I was getting like a bit of followers. But so I was finally getting more meetings, but it wasn't translating into that much more business. And so I was doing, depending on the month, kind of 2 to 5K would probably be the average. And I quit my old job. My wife is at home with the kids. So, we needed a serious income to be able to continue that. So the fire was under my ass for sure. And the major struggle point was that I was finally starting to get meetings, but my close ratio wasn't that high. And I knew that I was pretty good at some of the parts of the closing process, but I was really struggling with handling objections and collecting cash on the call. And so that was one of the things we worked on initially. And do you want me to go into where the numbers are at now, or did you have some questions before we get there?
Yeah, sure. Just we can jump right into it. Like as a result of eliminating some of these blocks and some of these challenges, like I personally know that now you're traveling, right? You're in Europe traveling and things, but tell us like what's changed as a result, both in terms of finance, in terms of the revenue every month. But yeah, how are you situated? How's your life changed as a result of all this?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, we've been traveling for a long time, but we're now traveling through Europe for a couple of months. Whitney's homeschooling the kids, and we're staying in gorgeous places. I'm in the bedroom now because the kids are running around, but we're at this just like gorgeous place in Sintra in Portugal, surrounded by castles on every side, and living in this 150-year-old home.
I've been there. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible here. Yeah, and we are able to, in the business now, I've actually hired 2 closers that are now taking over all the sales calls. So I'm really doing like 1 or 2 a week now, which 1 or 2 a week 6 months ago would have been a victory. But now that I'm only doing 1 or 2 a week is a victory. It's funny how things can shift like that. But yeah, we hired a couple of coaches. So we've got like a pretty big team now. I've got guys running, the sales process, the marketing process, the back end. And we have a big group program. We just started a couple months ago, but we've got 60 guys signed up already. It's a high ticket program, so that those are, really big numbers. We've had a lot of setbacks, some tech issues and employee issues and stuff. But even with those issues, we're still doing big numbers. So, my best month when I was doing all the closing myself was 70K. And I think that was that month was around 10 weeks after we started working together. And yeah, I'm off the sales calls now, but we've got 2 full-time salespeople that are taking calls. So we're doing awesome monthly revenue numbers, and we're doing the sales calls. Obviously, I'm working with them and helping train them up, and I've got another team member working with them as well. But my time has been freed up to basically just focus on creating content and coaching, which is really what I love to do, because as you know, I don't like sales. I got pretty good at it, thankfully. I had over a 40% close ratio, which was so much higher than what I was doing before. And that includes unqualified calls too, right? So some of those guys, they weren't going to close no matter what I did. But yeah, now my time is spent just working with clients, getting them results, being available for them when they need me, having time to be creative, think about new content, think about adding courses to our program, additional calls per week, and trying to do that.
Yeah, strategic rather than caught up in the weeds of the business, right? Which there's a time and a place. Like if anyone who's watching this, if they're just getting started, it is like they do need to take massive action, and probably makes sense. They take all the closing calls themselves. They do it probably in the DMs themselves. But at this stage, this is really the power, and it's just great to see you stepping into that kind of more of a captain's sort of role. The captain isn't there rowing the boat, right? He's directing things. So,
and I definitely I made all those mistakes early on. Like I brought on a setter too early. I tried to bring on a closer a couple of times, which was disastrous because I didn't have the expertise to show them what to do. I didn't have the call volume, and I was trying to jump ahead. But when you have, several months back to back that are 30, 50, 70K on your own, you feel very justified in hiring somebody to take that over. And when we did that, it dipped, right? Because, the close ratio went down. We had to train people up and stuff, and there's other problems. But yeah, you have to do a lot yourself first, because otherwise, in my opinion, you don't earn the right to replace yourself until you've actually done it yourself first. And good luck trying to train somebody on handling objections if you can't handle them yourself.
Exactly. All like team and even automations and stuff, like it all just applies leverage. But we have to apply leverage to something that can actually function in the first place. Otherwise, we're just applying force to something that's dysfunctional. And then, so I see that. It's a good point. I see that all the time. So you said from our point of starting, it was 10 weeks to get to, was it 60? Was it 60K or 70K?
70, yeah. But I think month one, the numbers aren't totally fresh in my head, but month one, and we didn't start working together at the very beginning of the month, but whenever we started working in August, I think August I did 15-ish. And then September I did around 20, 25. And then October 30, November 70. And then since then I've taken myself out of doing.
But even out of the closing now, you get to enjoy obviously the traveling and everything, but you're still putting up 40, 50K months, which while onboarding and unwrapping members of the team thing. So
yeah, dude, I've had disasters this month with ads and with engagement, and with problems with logins. We had a whole bunch of fires, and we're still gonna 65, 70 this month probably. So once those fires go out, we should be able to do much, much more than that.
Incredible. Also, man, I love that it's a group program now. That's what makes sense in terms of actually being able to deliver. But I love that you kept the price points high, and that shows that you believe in the value of what you do on a principal level. Because I see so many people, they'll go from doing one-to-one high ticket, and then once they go to group, they think that they need to drop the price or something, which is not the way to do it. So good job on that as well. And incredible. That's incredible stuff. What would you say to somebody who is in that same place that you were in back when? So doing 2, 3, 4, 5 grand months. If they're debating whether getting support or not, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I've long been a believer in getting support, right? And almost always the things that really matter to me, if I can hire somebody who's been there before, who knows the mistakes, and I can take, the learning process from 2 years down to 2 weeks or 2 months. I mean, you don't have to be that good at math to run the numbers in your head and figure out how quickly you can pay for an investment if it actually works out for you. And so I'm a huge advocate of hiring people who have the scars already, so you don't have to get those wounds yourself. And if you can look at your business and you can figure out, okay, you know, things aren't where they want them to be, and you've given yourself 2, 3, 6, 12 months trying to figure this thing out on your own, it's like, well, maybe you don't have the answer. So you can keep beating your head against the wall and just getting more wounds, or you can go to somebody who knows what to do and ask them, hey, what am I not seeing? Because I'm in the thick of it right now. I'm feeling all this scarcity. I'm feeling all this panic. I'm not sure where to go. I'm not sure what's going wrong. It's like, well, get somebody who's been there, who can help people in your situation and have them guide you through it. Because, man, then, you know, like when we were working together, there's a couple of quick fixes you made in the closing process, specifically with the collecting cash on the call, which is always a struggle for me. And just when you explained it to me, one of the first times we talked, it was like, holy shit, that's so obvious, right? But I'd had hundreds of sales calls and it had not become obvious to me on my own. But when you get that information, it's obvious in hindsight. But if I didn't get it from you, who knows how long it would have been until I figured it out on my own. I probably would have eventually. It could have been 6 months or 3 years, or who knows.
Exactly. And you know, most coaches, you're obviously far beyond this point, but like 90+% coaches will never get past 10K months. So if somebody is trying to do a result, which is by most people's standards unfathomable, it's not going to happen without getting support. It's like, I use this example all the time. You could take, you're in Portugal at the moment, so to use a relevant example, you could take all the skill from a Cristiano Ronaldo and put it into your right foot. But without coaching, without support, he's not going to be that player. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's not going to be that international player. And it's not because of the lack of skill. It's just that ultimately to be a top player, that's what's required.
Oh, it shifts your beliefs too, because when you're working with somebody who's like, hey, you know, I know how to do this, you can feel the confidence from them and you go, okay, so it's not me. It's not that I'm uniquely bad at this, or it's like, I just didn't have the experience and the expertise to actually make this happen. And it's funny, once you've done it a bunch of times, you really see, okay, it's not actually that hard. Like, it felt so impossible. And like, it's something I could just, I would never overcome. And then you figure out how to do it and you're like, oh shit, this isn't luck. Like, there's actually a process. And it's an amazing thing for confidence too, because I know if something happened to the business and I had to start over, it's like, I know how to do this now. So yeah, there'd be a lead up time to build, but it's like, it's not luck. It's just, there's a process. And when you know the process and you're applying it and you're humble and you're willing to learn and correct your mistakes, like that's why people who've done this before, when they do another business, it ends up being a success again, because it's not luck. It's information and application. And if you have the right information and you're willing to apply it, like, it will work eventually. But a lot of people just don't have what they need. And so they just, you know, try and, like, through sheer force of will. And it's like, well, you'll get somewhere with sheer force of will, but you're not going to get the scale. You're not going to get the leverage that you get with force of will plus information.
And you know, a lot of clients obviously that I work with are in a similar space to yourself, either working with dads or working with married guys, or maybe even working with single guys, helping them with their relationships and stuff. But they might be in that same place that you were in, so doing 2 5K months. They feel like they have the information, they feel like they may have the skill and they can figure it out themselves. But what I would just highlight is that there's somebody like Matt Enns who, yeah, peak months, which you're getting back to now, 70K, but even just saying like 50 or 40K months, that's what's on the table for somebody who is struggling. So that's like the opportunity cost. That's what they're missing out on. So if they miss out, if they can do it all themselves for 2 years, but that's what is potentially on the table, which they're not capturing at the moment, just because of stubbornness and not wanting to invest or pay the price of enrollment, you know. So what matters more, right? Because ultimately it's going to cost you in either case, you know. And on that point, and I say this a lot on sales calls, but that to work with me, I'm sure it's the same for you, but to work with a coach, and especially our service, it's not cheap, but it is an investment. And the quality of an investment, or to decide if it's a good decision or not, it's about the expected return. Matt, when we started working together, you know, the investments, as I just alluded to, it's not a small amount. So it is difficult for a lot of people to jump in and do that. But how long did it take you to make a return on that investment?
less than a month, like 2 weeks maybe.
I think at that point, I think you came in on a payment plan as well, right? So probably
Oh
from
well,
the
just
first.
yeah, the initial, and then everything, yeah, after that was the money was coming in, so it wasn't a problem.
Exactly. So I just free up that point because I know that that's an issue for a lot of people, and normally we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But they might say to me like, "I don't have a lot available," and often I'll actually point to an example like you, and I'll be like, "Well, fucking neither did this guy," you know. Um,
Yeah, well, let's make it available together. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like I also highlight the point that like if we had spoken the prospect, if we had spoken 2 months ago, do you think we would have had this problem solved? And they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, if we had spoken 2 months ago, do you think you'd have the cash to make this investment? Yeah. Okay, let's do something for 2 months. Let's break the payment down, do something for 2 months and get you into a position where you don't have to worry about investing into your business.
100%.
Cool. Not conscious of time, but I appreciate every minute of it. And it's been a pleasure working together.
100%, man. And yeah, just from my point of view, yeah, if you want to make money, you got to be willing to invest money. And if you're going to hire somebody to work with you, don't go into one of those programs where somebody's selling the program and you end up in a room full of 200 people with some support coach that he's paying minimum wage, teaching you what to do. Like, work with Matt, get the hands-on touch from somebody who actually knows what they're doing, who's invested, who cares, who wants to actually see your business succeed, who's available to you. It's a completely different experience. So yeah, I can't recommend Matt what he does highly enough.
I say it all the time, but every client that I work with is the opportunity for me to capture an incredible testimonial like this and get more clients. So just to your point there, I am absolutely hands-on, and clients' wins are wins of my own because I can use that to grow the impact in the business. So yeah, thanks for your time.
I think that both.
We'll link up on the next trip of Europe. Trade. Do a bit of jiu-jitsu. It'll be fun. Cool. Cool.